Okay. All right, let's get started. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. We're so happy to have you all here tonight. We're so happy to welcome Susana, Jami, and Dayna. They volunteered to be here with us tonight to read from their very new poetry books that came out during the quarantine. And I just recently, a few minutes ago, learned that they have not met in person themselves. So I just think that's so fascinating to think about all these connections being made during this unusual time. So thank you so much to them for being with us. And you know, I'm going to come back right now. And as I was saying, unfortunately, our website is down currently. And so that means all these links I'm sharing right now won't work right now, but they should be working by tomorrow afternoon, fingers crossed. And again, my email's at the bottom. If you're interested in any information, if you're interested in donating or learning anything more about us, you can always email me and I'll get back to you as soon as we can. All right. And I want to say thank you so much to everyone who has been donating or is thinking about donating tonight. These events are made possible with those donations. And even a small donation, $5 that you would spend maybe on Starbucks coffee, something like that, for us means multitudes, because we get to share contemporary voices every single week with poets and also other historical programming that we have in the works right now. So we're just so happy that we're able to share that and that we're able to be with you every single week this way from wherever you're coming from, because there's so many people from different states, different countries that we never would have met. So thank you so much for your donations and for following us on Facebook. And just staying in touch with us. We love that so much. You might consider yourself a Whitmaniac, which is the term for people who love Whitman. And another thing I want to mention is that we will be reopening on August 1st. We've had a few false starts, but if you'd like to visit with us, August 1st will be open again, and we'll be open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I should also say that we're located in Huntington, New York, which is on Long Island. And our museum is the house that Walt Whitman was born in 201 years ago. And if you visit us, you can take a tour of the house. You can learn a lot about Whitman's legacy and about the time period that Whitman lived in. So definitely think about visiting us. We have a beautiful outdoor space as well. We will be going through all the CDC recommendations to keep everyone safe, wiping everything down, masks, all that. But the outdoor space is really nice too if you just want to come see the property and see our beautiful sculpture of Walt Whitman that we have with the butterfly on his finger. And we'll also be doing a virtual tour in the future. We're working on that right now. So that would be wonderful if you want to join us from afar, please do. And I'm just going to very briefly go through our other upcoming events just so you know everything we have going on, and then we'll get started with our wonderful poets that we have tonight. All right, so for next week on the 30th, which is Thursday, so a week from today, we'll have local poet Russ Green with us. And he's a wonderful community organizer for poets. He's local. And he describes his poetry as edgy, bold, introspective, and exploring political and societal truths with humor and culinary bliss sprinkled in. So that's going to be a wonderful event. Again, that will be a free event with the $5 suggested donation, and we will have a working website by then, so that will be good too. Then the next day, so the 31st, Friday, we'll have distinguished Whitman scholar Ed Folsom with us, and the topic will be Whitman, Race, and Racism. And this is a wonderful way for us to sort of put women in perspective. We know that he was a Civil War poet, and he spoke very frequently about democracy and inclusivity. So Ed Folsom is going to bring us through a little more of that so we can understand how to think about Whitman, what was progressive for the time that he was living in, and get a bigger perspective on that. So that's going to be a wonderful program, and that will be July 31st. And then I want to just tell you about one more program that we have coming up. It will start on August 5th, which is Wednesday, and it's a discussion and book group, and it'll be led by Dr. Jack Callahan, Dr. Jack Callahan, and the topic is existential quandaries. And it will answer questions such as, what price would you pay to live in utopia? What price would you pay for immortality? Can we ever overcome plagues and pandemics? And last but not least, is laughter the best medicine? So if you're interested in that program, there'll be a reading and then there'll be a discussion each week for each one of those topics. And we'll meet every Wednesday in August to answer these existential questions, which sounds very exciting. And that will be a $10 registration for all of the meetings in August. All right, so I want to get started on our program now. Again, we're so thankful to have you with us. Thank you so much, Susana, Dayna, and Jami. And first we're going to hear from Susana H. Case. And she recently released her new book, Dead Shark on the End Train. And her poetry deals with questions of violence, gender threaded throughout her poems. And we're so excited. Susana actually reached out to us to organize all of this. So thank you so much for being with us, Susana. And I'm going to give you the spotlight right now.
Well, thank you, Caitlin, for hosting us, and thank you, Walt Whitman Birthplace, for hosting us. I'm reading today from Dead Shark on the End Train. I don't know if it's backwards on your screen, it's backwards on my screen. And as you said, there are large and small acts of violence threaded through this book, mostly toward women, not entirely, sometimes toward men, sometimes toward animals. And I'm going to start with a couple of poems that have animals in them, beginning with the title poem, Dead Shark on the End Train. Poor brown fish beached at Coney Island, then carried in someone's arms to the roller coaster, where another man thought it beautiful and tried to transport it home, only to abandon it on the subway. And you know how it is in New York City. Nothing surprises anyone. The car reeked of dead shark, and passengers took photos, debating Instagram filters, when the conductor asked everyone to leave and closed off that train. At the end of the line in Queens, a transit worker plastic bagged the body and normalized the car. I fled Queens when I grew up. Like sharks that migrate freely, I traveled to survive, didn't want to reach the end of my line in the same place I started out from, though I ended up just on the other side of the river. When someone on the number 1 had a heart attack and died, his corpse rode the loop from South Ferry to the Bronx and back to South Ferry twice. Like a man in his habitat, he seemed to be napping. Unlike the shark, no one put a Metro card under his fin, cigarette in his jaws, can of Red Bull by his side for the journey. This one is called Sign. Remember Nim Chimpsky in his red knit sweater, the chimpanzee that thought he was human, learned to sign stone when he wanted to smoke a joint. Not made for complex language, later he lived alone, sad and immobile inside a pen. He asked for beer and oranges. Give orange me, give eat orange, me eat orange, give me eat orange, give me you. You may be going blind, my doctor's words bite me, yellow deposits of droisin in the eye, and I rush to order the nutrients he claims are my only hope, capsules too big to swallow. I shuffle between writing directives for when I am dead and wanting to bonfire the papers. If I were a pine, my rough barked arms would stretch toward the sun. I wouldn't worry about eyes or words. They're selling pods now to grow death's ashes into trees. Give capsule, me, give swallow capsule, me swallow capsule, give me swallow capsule, give me you. So I work in a university, and this next poem is inspired by training that we got in Just in Case, and it's called Active Shooter. One of the interesting things now, of course, with schools all virtual is that we don't have school shootings, but I'm sure they will return. Active shooter. He had a well thought out system. He appeared off-brand weird. He was solo 98% of the time. He wasn't stupid any of the time. He appeared to know the building. He planned the operation. He was a quiet man, everyone said, never a problem. He was a problem. He was a monster. He was not a monster. He did a monstrous thing. He shot for 7 to 11 minutes. We didn't pay that extra minute of attention. We tried our concealment. The weapons bullets penetrated our desks. The weapons bullets penetrated the partitions between our cubicles. 38 cal, 9 mil, 12 gauge, M67 for the AK-47. The weapons penetrated our file cabinets. We confused concealment and cover. We had no cover. We were lizards dreaming like birds. Mm-hmm. This next one is a prose poem, and it's called The Man from Haiti. And the place mentioned in this poem on 42nd Street was there for a very long period of time, and this was a real person. The Man from Haiti. Not much is left in the record about Hezekiah Trambles, only that he was an actor. His role, Congo the Jungle Creep, in a windblown wig and loincloth, 5 times every day but Tuesday at Hubert's Museum on West 42nd Street, home of the last working flea circus in America. People came to view his oversized hands as he banged his drum. He grew his nails snaggly long, frightened white audiences with his devil talk and bag of spells. They went wild with applause when he screamed ugga mugga and swallowed lit cigarettes. When he wasn't working, he was a fancy man strolling down Times Square in a custom-made suit, violet cravat, Napoleon knot with brooch, diamonds on his fingers, ignoring the bag ladies, insomniacs, and thieves. He sucked his teeth at photographers, but he smiled when fans walked with him. They wanted to hear about his primeval home, didn't know this was the only jungle he'd ever known. This next poem is also inspired by an incident at work when a professor in the economics department opened the window of his office and jumped onto West 61st Street. So it's called He Pried Open the Classroom Window and Stepped Out. My students said, there's a body down there. No jump above the 4th floor is survivable. Said, untreated depression. Said, job trouble. Said, explain what makes a man do that. Said, we should postpone the test. The police covered the body with a tarp. I fled, tremoring. At the hospital, drug blotto me, please. I remembered to say please until I no longer see blood on the street. The emergency shrink said, I believe you abuse pills, need an excuse for relief. The words I heard lit up a marquee above the doctor's face, a face spotted and lumpy like a potato. I was together enough to know he'd said no. So you probably already realize, those in the audience who don't know me, that I live in New York, and I live on the East River, and the East River appears sometimes in my poems, and it does in this one, which takes its title from the song Greenpoint, and it's called The East River Isn't Romantic Anymore. 16 miles of salt water estuary that can't make up its mind in which direction to nudge the tugboats extend south from the arched bridge at Hell Gate. Once a mass of ice got stuck, and for a few days commuters could cross on foot between Brooklyn and Manhattan. They've cleaned up the water from when human waste was dumped, when Harry Houdini performed his first wooden crate escape with shackles and straps. Swimmers practice their strokes from Brooklyn Bridge Park to Manhattan, where the current runs fast. Every year, some jumper drowns. It's where the suicides go, are the lyrics of the rock song, like the father of a man I once loved, who locked up his dress shop and, arm dangling from the car window, smoked his last Marlboro as he drove down Montgomery Street, never braking. The city's machinery fished out the car, bleeding water and him, a man who no longer needed to make up his mind. I also write a lot about art, and this next one is inspired by a Giacometti sculpture, and it's called Femme Égorgée. It's the name of the sculpture, in English means woman with her throat cut. His decade of sex and death, the woman with her throat slit, a small nick in the carotid, her tiny head reaching for air as if bronze can gasp. Venus flytrap woman, spiky ribbed cockroach woman, convulsing, disemboweled. I have destroyed her, Giacometti said of busts of his wife Annette, serial expression of anger and guilt. He was better with hookers, the ultimate in womanhood. Like his art, endless repetition. It was the usual good girl whore dichotomy, as in his obsession, the prostitute Caroline, who stubbed out a cigarette on her portrait's well-placed bones, its jittery paint. Fail better, his friend Beckett wrote, fascination with the neck, skeletal woman without pedestal, infertile man, quasi-impotent, someone brutal in the vicinity, that crucial gaze. This one is called Bolt. A panicked rabbit coughing fear in the car, nose twitching as she shifts into drive. A familiar form, the husband, looms in the rearview mirror, her beginning and end. Locks click, rear wheels spin, tufts of earth. It's this, or he closes his hands around her neck again. She wonders how someone so much like a ferret can be so familiar. She no longer wants him to be so familiar. Not her usual drive, seething down roads, grinding her teeth until she returns. Puff, she is a magic rabbit. Snap, here is the hat, here is the highway. She snaps out of her rut. Here she swerves, there she goes, dot vanishing on the horizon. And this one is called Walking Home. The girl walking home alone doesn't know what to do about the stranger who calls her name. He claims he has a gun. His knowing her name is a gun. He blocks her way. Rail track, chain link fence, no parking sign. It's like that test she had in school yesterday, having to choose which animal doesn't belong. She guessed it was the cow. This girl knows nothing of farms. On her left, the empty tennis club. In front, the man who snarls he will kill her. Let me see the gun, in her piccolo voice. A train rushes by. If she were in it, her life would be different. The world is full of noise. Weeds, cigarette butts, rusted car, locked shed. She runs. She doesn't know if he can keep up. He's too old to catch her. He screams again, "I'll kill you." She doesn't look back. Those last two poems are poems of escape. I'm going to end with a poem in which, unfortunately, there was no escape. And this is called School Shooting. Italy, Texas, so named because a guy once took a vacation overseas and came back impressed, is filled with domes that look like giant peeled half grapefruits. You can put them anywhere, next to a power plant if you want to. Today, a teenager shot another teenager, but we can't do anything about that. All the guns. Italy is filled with domes of polyester and PVC reinforced with concrete, which means no tornadoes or earthquakes or firestorms can destroy them. You can't even shoot a bullet through them. They will last a century with rebar centuries. The thing is, they're ugly. Not at all like Brunelleschi's opulent Duomo in Florence, in the real Italy, though Michelangelo compared it to a cricket cage. Ugly grapefruit halves. In those domes, you can't use propane or natural gas, which can leak and accumulate, maybe even kill you. Still, not as ugly as going to a school to shoot a young girl. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susana. Oh my gosh, those were amazing. And I love the Giacometti poem. And that's in the Museum of Modern Art, right? That's
Yes.
Yes, definitely the New York influence there. Thank you so much. All right, and now I'm going to introduce Jami Macarty. And she recently released The Minuses. That's her most recent book. And it's an ecofeminist book of poems concerned with endangerments to women and to ecology. All right, Jami, and I'm going to give you the spotlight right now. Thank you so much for being with us, and lots of color. Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Beautiful, Susana. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your poems, and also for bringing us together. Without you, we would not be together. So I thank you so much for bringing us together. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening to you all. I'm really happy to see you and happy to be with you. I'm going to stand up and let me take a moment to adjust and make sure you can see me okay and also hear me okay. If there's any problem with sound, please let me know. So as Caitlin said, these are poems that are very, both, yes, endangerments, but also relationships between self, with self, between other, also with spirit or the spiritual, with nature. And I'm hoping that I've selected a series of poems from the Minuses to give you an orientation to my orientation to these connections. Flight hours. Contained within plane's suspended trajectory, we souls aboard are the what above, our air world inverted, though still upright, to one tiny interim where we share a fate. Hours into the flight, cries of children rise, too much air beneath their dangling feet. Kept from heaven, kept from earth, I come and go from myself as I am. I will not return. Cloud curds incline mouth to window. Flying through clouds, the mind doesn't search for rabbits or whales. Between what is called back and what comes back involuntarily, the truth I attenuate, I capitulate. Stratospheres brilliant to abashed blues, fields tillage patterns, circuitous, one way or casting. If I could see flowers, I would not know what to name them. Sun's gigantic hand setting, blinds like a Morse mirror, signals SOS. If I turn away, I won't remember this color bruises imitate. My seatmate's an intermediary, relaying words between worlds. If you were he, you might do the same. Territory of men. The cafe customer mutters a body part and a man's name. Plastic lids startle the floor's scuffed wood. Plastic lids startle the floor's scuffed wood. A man comes in, a man goes out. A window captures the one looking in. Head observes, bobs like an inanimate object's head on a spring. A man coming in, a man going out. A man wearing a shirt labeled by an adjective describing the noun sky passes a man wearing the same color shirt. My notice changes nothing. A man inspects his reflection, carries carnations in the bank window, red-tinged torches at arm's length. A man goes. A man in a suit talks to himself, counts the money in his hand. A man lights a wave cigarette. I can say goodbye in 12 languages, and still my nerves stretch beyond their limit when he leaves. A man goes out, a man comes in, and I hail a cab to go where a woman goes. The where-to dogs affixed to the cab's dash bob their heads, nodding yes, shaking no, their heads bobbing at every change of direction. This is for Dayna. Door ratio. Not seeing the door, feeling it, like day's incessant sun batters mountains, powders extrusive ledges. Bides time. What you say is our future is your future. I am your time to go now. Rectangular conduit, the door conveys right angles of dismissal and egress. The door refuses and accepts, accepts and refuses. Through the last day of the year, you call to come back, then change your mind again. I blank the word for it. The door, a set jaw trap. Things are not what they seem. Things are what they are. The door is a vacuum. From the door, I am made. And let's go back to New York. Most of the poems in the minuses take place in the Sonoran Desert and other deserts too, but primarily the Sonoran Desert, among the most diverse bioregions in the world. That's something like 1,000 species of bees. Anyway, don't get me started. New York, subway, and this is for Susana. Subway. The amputees shaking coins in a cup, the stench, the token, the turnstile. Artificial light blanching the platform. Rush hour, E-train, jostles commuters in standing room only, and saliva. Then someone's hand. Who could tell whose? For the crowd becomes a place, a hymn. Packed against her a crush of suits, anonymous hands. She can't move out of reach, say anything. Saying nothing, she swallows commerce, deep breaths of the city's air, the degraded air, where entrances and exits meet. So you've probably heard there's a fair amount of relationship for women in a man's world, if you will, and lots about doors moving in and out. So with that, pardon me, here we are. And the door, to some extent, is conceived in the poems as a subtractor, as that through which someone passes, and through that passing is subtracted somehow from a place, from a person. Without, this is no love song. We live as an image. Once the word demean replaces desire, once the word departure replaces desire, the will not gesture cultivates our lips. We wander a less bound climate. Time's constituents obtain full rights. The candle qualifies as anything. He'll put a match to kerosene, or she will. Across my blood supply, she references unbuttoning, or he does. They rescue in bed covers. In crow light, a transparency unveils him, her. My skin outward, like intercepting leaves. Without is guide. The will not gesture cultivates their lips. I am not telling a story. I am repeating how I feel. My skin outward, like intercepting leaves. In the throttle climate, the knife and fist climate, after lovemaking, everyone is sad. And back to the desert. desert opus. Sun, sun, no cloud, no shade trees, no cool sea, no rain, no train, no show. Shine, shine, no shade bees, no butterflies, no birds breeze, November. Sun, sun, no dark, no moon, no dawn. Sun, sun, high noon, no morn, maroon. No proper time of day. Reverse of shadow. Why are we not in the dark, the secret room, learning to be tender? Music plays whether we dance or not, whether a light is on or off. Do I know when to turn my back on what I previously trusted? Shade is not meant to hide, but to illuminate the other. As soon as I talk about what is not here, the passion of it arrives. Brave light, reverse of shadow. I cannot say who you are without saying who I am. More than anything, let us lower our words. Let us get down on our knees and not ask. Okay, my dears, one more, and let me bring you to those bees. This is called By Virtue of And. Honey given is to honey taken. Honey taken. By virtue of and, we divide and separate, branching into Palo Verde, green stick tree, precipitating yellow blossoms. Green tree, yellow blossoms. A mind sticks on certain images, certain colors. The phone buzzes. It's the neighbor again. She wishes someone would do something about the bees. Yellow blossoms, delicate, fluted. What wind they need blows. The blossoms let go easily, falling one at a time. It's impossible to determine the moment of separation. Descent, a small scheme in the wind's theorem. Thank you all so much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Jami. It's amazing. I love you're representing our pollinators, which is so important right now with your background and your poetry. Bees. Thank you so much. Okay, and then we're going to hear from Dayna Patterson next. She recently released If Mother Braids a Waterfall. It is a book obsessed with motherhood, daughterhood, ancestry, and transition of home, family, faith, and narratives woven to uphold the self. Thank you so much for being with us, Dayna. I'm going to give you the spotlight right now. There we go. You just have to unmute. Perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Caitlin and Susana, for bringing us together, and thank you for your beautiful poems, Jami. I'm just delighted to be here, and thank you to the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association. Someday I would love to go there. It's on the other side of the country, but I'll make it someday. I'm going to start by reading one poem from my little chapbook that just came out in November. It's called Titania in Yellow. How not to bring down the flowers, And I should say, bringing down the flowers was a euphemism in early modern England for bringing about menstruation, and could sometimes refer to causing an abortion. And it draws lines from Gabriel Hatfield's Encyclopedia of Folk Medicine, How Not to Bring Down the Flowers. Go not where toads hop. To keep your petals close furled within, the fetus fecund, blooming from bud to full flower head. Touch no Seneca snake root, nor smartweed. Do not expose your naked body before a blossoming hawthorn. Steer clear of house leek, meadow rue, fairy flax, and fir club moss. Do not eat the rye moldy with ergot. Put a piece of cold iron under your bed, a Bible under your pillow. When your time nears, go on pilgrimage to find the wife stone in the aisle of Rona's moldering chapel, the one you touch to ensure easy labor. Find the right amulet, otter skin, aetites, sea beans, chew a star thistle, or drink tansy tea, or make a pain-killing cake from egg yolk, grated dandelion root, hemp seed, milk, and plenty gin. Mix a warm fomentation of mugwort boiled with cloves in white wine. If this fail, drape seaweed over your swollen belly. If this fail, stinking nightshade will induce a twilight state. When all's done, the midwife will warm a twig of ash and place its tip, oozing sap, into the newborn's mouth. So it's my little chapbook. There are lots of little kinds of spells and sorts of prayers to Hecate, and a lot of it is riffing off of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. So that's a little taste of that chapbook. And now I'll move to my book that came out at the end of February. I'm just going to dive right in with a poem to my mom. Dear Mom, December lady, the day you came out to me, I was in my hibernacle, so comfortable in the warm smell of my own pelt and the cave's dry envelope where I slept in a ball, dreaming of silver fish and spring. You startled me awake with your crunching feet, bearing news through a fresh fall. I had smelled winter from my hideaway, but you took me by the paw. Accustomed to dark, my eyes sought blindly. Snow sheathed the pine needles. You showed me what I'd slept through at every hint of frost. Snow sculpted into waves. No doubt, you feared the probability of my bite, my claws. Snow fell soft, each flake filigreed, scintillant. You're human after all, and one swipe could have finished you. I took off my thick coat, felt cold's blow, what you'd borne these hush-mouthed years. I yanked teeth from my jaws, how sharp. Tore razors from my fingers, how many cuts. Left den behind, shoulder to shoulder in my ample fur, You teach me to forage for winterberry and root. No need to devour your heart. That poem was the kind of catalyst for this collection. My mom came out to me after I was serving a mission for the Mormon Church, and when I got back, while I was on a mission teaching gay couples about Mormonism, which is the faith that I was raised in, I came back. She had fallen in love with the love of her life, and for 10 years she didn't tell me about that because she was afraid of how I was going to react. So that Dear Mom poem was a little bit about that, and other poems talk about that as well. This is one of them, Revision. It's at least 200 years overdue, what was needed in this place, a good earthquake. It slips from your mouth, Mom, hits finally in the clothing store. One seismic word, bisexual. We step outside. Mountains spin. The word sin chokes in my throat. Acid bleak, I swallow back. A whole decade to revise, to re-see with new eyes. You say you were afraid to let me down again. You were right then. 30 years of Sunday lessons learned, rules for heaven, hell, made me a person you couldn't tell. Around us now lie whole mountains made low. Leveled, I offer a nude I don't know. The first piece in this book is a little bit longer. It's a lyric essay, and it's called The Mormons Are Coming. Mormons bring a handmade wreath of white mesh, silver ribbon, tinsel sprigs, a cheese and potato casserole, an offering of white lilies. Mormons bring a package of diapers, a green onesie, a purple turtle quilt. They bring a musical mobile that dangles Eeyore, Piglet, Tigger, and Pooh. They surprise you with a 2-foot Christmas tree, white lights, red balls, and a golden star. They bring cranberry orange walnut bread, gingerbread, cinnamon rolls. They say, I'm sorry for your loss. They say, congratulations. They say, Merry Christmas. The Mormons are coming. They drink eggnog without rum. They drink Ovaltine and Postum. They drink Mountain Dew and Diet Coke in 32-ounce mugs. Energy drinks, yes. Coffee and tea, no. Alcohol, never. Mormons rake your leaves, weed your weeds. Babysit your kid while you go to the hospital to have another kid. Mormons build monuments of prairie families and covered wagons and hand carts. They hold the weight of family trees and martyrdom and pioneer blood in their cupped palms. They say, my ancestors knew Joseph Smith, donated their china for crushing to make the temple's stucco sparkle, buried their massacred dead at Hans Mill. My husband says, my ancestor was Brigham Young's shoemaker, and there were a lot of little feet to shod. I say, my ancestor went to prison for polygamy, 3 wives, 19 sons, 9 daughters, 107 grandchildren. Mormons bless their new babies in white, baptize their children in white coveralls and pinafores, white at their weddings, white in their temples, white when they're laid out in their coffins, an apron of green around their waists. They wear white undergarments woven with folkloric magic. bullets repelled, burns deflected. Mormons dot hills with electric spires, Nauvoo Temple, Salt Lake Temple, a temple in your neighborhood, brazenly bright. The Mormons are coming. They come in the middle of the night when you have a blinding migraine. They come with consecrated olive oil and warm hands and baritone prayers. They come in the morning and sweep up the crying baby. They come in the afternoon and feed your cats, your turtles, your birds. Mormons bring a space blanket, a flashlight with extra batteries, a portable radio, a case of granola bars, a bucket of wheat, a crate of water. The Mormons are coming. By car, by bicycle, on foot, they knock on your door. They wear black name tags and glowing faces and shiny hope. I wore a name tag. Sœur Kid, Église de Jésus-Christ des Saints des Derniers Jours. French in my mouth, a mangled nasturtium. They say, welcome to the neighborhood. They say, it's nice to meet you. They say, see you Sunday. Mormon men wear white shirts, dark suits, and power ties. They are clean cut, well shaven. Mormon women wear dresses or skirts in peach, spring green, lilac. A few rebels wear slacks. Mormons say, follow the prophet. They say, fathers preside. They say, men have priesthood, women have motherhood. Mormons gather for Sabbath in low church chapels. They shush their gigawatt kids and pass silver plates of torn Wonder Bread, trays of water in thimble-sized paper cups. My daughters ask, why do only boys pass the sacrament? Mormons build a grand conference center with a waterfall welcome mat, a garden roof of native grasses and trees. They build it big enough to park 2 planes inside to gather Mormon masses from around the world. They arrange a room of plinths with the bronze busts of their prophets. My daughters ask, why are all the statues of men? Mormons issue proclamations. A proclamation to wash away polygamy. A proclamation to define the family, marriage between man and woman only. They say families are forever and paint the words in cursive above their doors, like a threshold blessing, a paschal lamb's blood. The Mormons are coming. Mormons put up Prop 8 signs. They make calls. They go door to door. They have practice going door to door. They say hate the sin, but not the sinner. They say it's a choice. They say gay is okay, just stay celibate. And when a daughter, son, aunt, uncle, cousin, best friend, or fill in the blank comes out, my mother tells me I'm bisexual. I agonize for half a decade's doubt before deciding to leave. Mormons send priesthood holders. Mormons send sister teachers. Mormons send missionaries. And when I ask them to stop, they send a card every month, a card with no return address. The cards say, it's spring now, summer's here, autumn's coming. I think I'll end with that one. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to read with you two, the 3 of us.
Woohoo!
Thank you so much, Dayna. Oh, so powerful. Learned so much about Mormonism that I especially didn't know. It's amazing. And I love that way that you list all of the things similar to your other book too. Titania.
I'm a big fan of list poems.
Yes, we actually had a workshop about them recently, and I had never thought about it, but yes, it's its own category. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Dayna. And I'm just gonna come back. I know everyone has been dying to clap. I have been the entire time. So I want everyone to unmute for a moment, and we'll go back to muting afterwards, but I just wanna make sure we get our applause in right now.
Yay, bravo.
And we're so lucky to have
Hi. Hello, my dears. Hello, lovelies.
And we're so lucky to have you with us. It's amazing. You volunteered to read your poetry with us. And we're just so happy to share your voices with so many people this way on Zoom. Thank you so much. And we're going to take some questions in just a moment. But I want to post those links again. And I want to encourage Susana, Jami, and Dayna to look at the chat because there were so many nice things in there. So just make sure you scroll up and catch them all. And I'm just going to make sure we get the books back in there first.
Let me take a moment, if I can, to say also that earlier I said that this event would not have happened without Susana, and that is true. I will just tell you ever so briefly that some months ago, when was it, Dayna? Maybe in early June or late May, Dayna wrote a message in a group that we three are in, saying what to do in the time of COVID, how to launch your book. And Susana chimed in, and then I did and said, what should we make together? And this reading is the result of what we make together in community. 3 strangers mostly came together to make this. And so for me, this is so much about both the power of creativity and community. So I'm just deeply grateful to Dayna for beginning a conversation, to Susana for picking up that conversation, and for taking it to Caitlin, who among her colleagues at Walt Whitman made this space for us to gather together. Yeah, it's just so special to have these spaces. I think of Zoom these days not as an alternative so much to our being together in person, but as an alternative to nothing. Because without this, we wouldn't actually be able to see one another and hear one another and share. So again and again and again, just thank you, Susana, thank you, Dayna, thank you, Caitlin, and thank you all for being with us. And thank you for listening.
Well said. Thank you.
Bless you.
For articulating it.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being with us. Again, we're just so happy that we could share your voices. And of course, this will be a recording, so we'll have it on our YouTube. And we're just so happy to have you with us and to be able to share that with so many people. Like you were saying, Jami, again, we could never fit this many people into our interpretive center. I'm not sure if we have enough chairs even, so it's really great to be able to meet like this and be with so many people from many different places, far, far away in some cases. All right, and then if you have questions, you can type them in the chat, or you can come on video. I just want to make sure everyone stays muted if they're not speaking, just so that we can hear all the questions as they're coming in. Okay. All right, and I'm just going to read 2 of the comments that we just got. I know we have a lot of comments, and I just don't want to go through all of them, but they're also wonderful, and I'm sure that you'll be able to enjoy them as you read them and scroll up there. This comment is from Colleen Weber. Colleen says, thank you to 3 poets for your wonderful readings and to everyone that organized this. Thank you, Colleen. And we have another comment from Martha Deed. This reading was marvelous. I particularly enjoyed the contrasting styles and themes the 3 of you presented. Rare to have 3 featured readers who are so talented and enjoyable. And that's absolutely true too. When you contacted me and I was reading your bios, I was like, this really goes together so well. I don't think we would have even been able to imagine something like this.
No.
So it's so great that you found each other and then you came to us. Thank you so much. This one's from...
We found each other. I'm so grateful.
Facebook of all places, right? I mean, it's a little bit, that could be, you know, its own story in itself, really.
Yes.
Theme. I'm grateful to all three readers for how you call out the damage caused by violence, oppressive, patriarchal religions, and violence against nature too. And that was from Jill McCabe Johnson. And
Thanks,
yes,
Jill.
comment. And if you want to comment on any of that or share anything with us about how your writing process works or anything like that.
I'm thinking. My computer is at thinking.
Yeah.
You know, I guess I would just say I would, of course, love to hear from Susana and Dayna on this, but I may just be in, you know, a kind of gratitude fugue here. So it is quite remarkable, though, the way our work is in conversation with one another. There are connections through the natural world, endangerments, as I call them, perpetrations of violence that occur within the natural world. There are, of course, the perpetrations of violence toward women from society by men in some cases, not all cases. And then there's the spiritual connection, perhaps especially between Dayna's poems and my poems, though there is that reaching within Susana's work too. So just a thank you to Jill for recognizing it, for articulating it. Bless you.
I was muted and I didn't realize. And actually, Jamie, we have a question for you from
Sure.
Jill McCabe Johnson.
Sure.
Jill asks, would you please talk a little more about the door as a kind of event horizon or transformative threshold?
Well, I mean, you said it, my dear. Let's see. I don't know if I can. It's just, it became a kind of conduit in my imagination, the door. Almost in psychological terms, early childhood development, you know, this term of object permanence. Like if somebody moves through the door space, what happens? You know, what kind of transportive, both magical and maybe subtracting device is the door? And the way the door is often represented within the poems is through the double colon. Dayna and I had a conversation about the colon and the double evolving door and in and out. The single one is perhaps more of a one-way ticket out. Other than that, there's a quality of it being, as I said before, a subtracting energy device. Not always, of course, because people enter, but that's just not what happens in these poems. Mostly, it's a kind of vacuum through which self, relationship, belief are sucked through, and then at the end of the book, I didn't read those poems this time round, but at the end of the book, there's an arrival in a way where the one speaking, the one seeking, finds herself in a way that's a bit cheesy in a way, but there you have it. That's what happens. I think I'll leave it there because I want to make some space for others. I hope that satisfies Jill. We can talk some more if you need, if you wish.
All three of us are women writers, and so it's not uncommon for us to examine our place in the world, and I think we all are doing that to some extent in different ways, and but doing that, that's where we find the convergences.
Yeah, beautiful, Susana. Thank you. Thank you.
Again, I forget to unmute and everything. Okay, there we go. All right, and do we have anyone who wants to come on video and ask any questions? We have a little time left. All right, so I'm gonna say thank you again so much. You did such a great job finding each other and then putting this all together and being here with us tonight. And we're so excited that we got to share that with so many people. And we'd love it if everyone wants to come back next week, join us again. We always love sharing contemporary poets' voices, and we're so glad that we're able to do it. So please join us again. Again, our website is down, but it'll be back up hopefully tomorrow afternoon. And then we'll be able to have our upcoming events, and you can take a look at that. And of course, always email me at any time. And I want to do one more round of applause, just because, again, we hold it in, and when there's 3 poets, we hold it in even more. So we're just going to do one more round of applause right now. Thank you so much.